Welcome to another episode of VV Rider. This week we are in a brand new BMW iX50, and with me is Cory France, the owner of this new EV BMW, and he just got it very recently. He's coming from a Tesla Model Y. So Cory, let's go ahead and start with, why'd you switch?
Well, so we wanted something bigger than a Model Y, and we wanted something with better range. And we had a BMW gas-powered car, an X3, and we loved BMW's driving dynamics. So we thought we'd give it a try. We test drove one up here in Jacksonville, and we're just blown away by it, by the technology, by the comfort, the quietness of the ride. And then we saw online that the actual mileage people were getting out of this car was much better than what the EPA rated. Our Tesla, for example, we couldn't go from here in Jacksonville to Disney World and back without stopping to pick up some electrons on the way. Mm-hmm. And it's rated at 300 something miles. We should have been able to do that easily. But on the highway, I guess the range on that Model Y was about 270, maybe 280 if you're lucky. This car, I'm getting routinely somewhere in the 330 to 350 range, and it's rated lower actually than the Tesla Model Y is.
Obviously, the range was one big reason for the switch, but I would imagine that wasn't the only reason. What are some of the other reasons?
Well, so like I said, the driving dynamics are incredible. Look, the car is a better car. BMW knows how to make a car. Tesla, I don't want to really badmouth Tesla too much, but that they consider it a luxury vehicle. I have ventilated seats in this car. You can't get ventilated seats in a Model Y. I have a heads-up display, which is one of the best in the industry. I can't get a heads-up display in a Tesla. There's certain features, the way the heating works with the heated seats here, the armrests are heated, the dashboard's heated, the passenger and door side armrests are heated, so you're enveloped in like a glove of warmth when you put the seat heater on. It isn't just a burner in your butt. So it's got more luxury features to it. So I would consider this a luxury performance car. I would consider the Tesla a electric vehicle.
Well, and in fairness to Tesla, I would say that the Y is perhaps one notch below, and perhaps, and you may have considered this, the bigger SUV,
the X, yeah,
the X. Did you consider it at all? With of course the Falcon wing doors.
Yeah, and that's a big car.
It is.
I mean, that's a really big car, and it's really expensive. I think it still tops out at well over this car does. And so I think again it gets down to being a car and a luxury car maker. BMW has been doing this for 40, 50, 60 years, building luxury cars and performance luxury cars. And we did have very good experience with BMW in the past. So I was just very much blown away with the technology, with the comfort, with the performance of this vehicle. And so that's why we went with it.
Talk to me a little bit about beyond straight line, because we know that both cars are just incredible in terms of straight line performance. But when you do have the opportunity to get beyond the flat, non-curvy roads that we have here in Florida, what's your impression so far of the BMW?
I mean, this car's almost 6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
It doesn't handle like a 6,000 pound car. It feels like a 3 Series BMW. It handles very well. The comfort on a long trip, because now you're in an SUV, so your feet are more like your legs are more like you're sitting in a seat in your house, like in a couch. You have the long distance between where your feet are on the floor and where your legs are on the seat. So it's a nice, comfortable ride for long distances.
Well, to that point, right now we're in a back road in St. Johns County, Florida, and honestly, the pavement is not the best, but this is soaking up the bumps nicely, not hearing any creaks or rattles or anything like that. The build quality feels nice and solid on this, what I would consider to be a fairly rough road.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think that the materials are better. The Tesla had some, basic quality materials in it, and this, I think, has more advanced materials between the seats, the armrest. It looks better inside, I think, overall, compared to the Model Y. And I don't want to badmouth the Model Y. I mean, we had no problem with it. We put 34,000 miles on it in 2.5 years. I think the real thing is the size. My wife, for example, sitting in the passenger seat, she's like, I just feel like I have so much more room to put my handbag. I have just more room to move around and breathe in here than we did in the Model Y. I think the big thing for me, though, is there's a lot of technology in any EV. You as a driver, you can get all kinds of information. How much energy I'm using at idle, for example, right now with the air conditioner on, I can tell. Then when I start moving, I know what my energy efficiency is. There's so much information to the driver, and I think the way they've done the displays here, I can get the information segregated, so I can know what I'm doing relative to entertainment, what I'm doing relative to the speed and performance of the vehicle. In my Tesla, you have that one screen and it's off to the side, so everything requires a look from your face to find out what's going on with your car.
You know, of course, one of the strengths of Tesla is its infotainment system, but now that you've experienced both, which infotainment system is better? And when I say infotainment, I mean everything: instrumentation, navigation, apps, all the rest.
I'd almost have to give a slight edge to Tesla because they have the integrations of, for example, with Netflix, YouTube, other things like that, that's integrated into the screen. Apparently you're allowed or able to do that somehow with the BMW, but you need a third party.
You can, at least in the case of Android. So for example, I have a web browser on Android Auto, so that does allow me to watch YouTube or surf the web. Now I personally don't watch Netflix or anything, but in theory I would assume I could log in. But that's an aftermarket web browser, not Chrome, the native browser you get with Google. And I can't honestly say I'm enough of an Apple guy to know if or what the equivalent would be for somebody with Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, I give it that slight edge there, although I'll tell you, this has more included features. I don't know that it's necessarily infotainment, but things like the self-driving. Tesla, that's now either a subscription or a high cost to add it on. This has below 40 miles an hour with the lane keep assist and everything. It's basically, it'll drive itself. It'll take exits. It's not quite turn-by-turn navigation, but for example, going to Disney World, I'm going down 95 to get onto I-4. This will take that merge by itself. I just have to occasionally put my hand on the wheel.
Yeah, now,
it'll take that all by itself.
But if I understand it correctly, though, it's not a true hands-free. So for example, my Mach-E, I could in theory go 50 miles without touching the steering wheel. You probably have to tug on it maybe every 25 seconds.
This has sensors in the steering wheel, so I just have to have my fingertips on it. What the Tesla was looking for was a torque on the steering wheel. So if you didn't occasionally just fight it a little bit if it's trying to stay in the lane, or you had to do something, and then after like 2 or 3 times it would shut off and just say, well, I'm going to punish you now, I'm not going to let you use me for the rest of your trip. This will just flash the thing that says, hey, put your hand on the wheel if you take your hands off the wheel. But below 40 miles an hour on a highway, it will do also, you can take your hands off the wheel. In fact, the way to activate that is you have to take your hands off the wheel, and it'll say driver assist plus ready, and then when you take your hands off the wheels, it'll say activated, and it'll drive by itself. So when you're stop and go, like going through Orlando on I-4, it'll drive itself through I-4 there. It'll take the turns, it'll do everything. You don't have to have your hands on the wheel until you get up to about 40 miles an hour. Then you'll get the little alarm that says, hey, put your hands back on the wheel.
So one of the things that I'll say right away that I prefer about iDrive 8 is, even though it is touchscreen based, with that jog wheel, it becomes muscle memory. So I don't really have to go ahead and hunt for the darn touch areas like I do in a pure touch screen.
Right. Yeah, it isn't too. Although there are several menus down on things, I can get to things quickly from my center console. I can go to if I want to go to my parking assistant, or I want to go to different things. I want to raise or lower the suspension. I have the air suspension. My nav system. You start to know. Hey, it's like a typewriter. Where's QWERT? Right. You start to feel that out, and I know where I am on everything, and I can do a lot. I do actually a lot with this center console control rather than using the touch screen so much. And then you're supposed to, because there are things buried in menus, you're supposed to be able to use the voice assistant to bring up various menus, so you don't have to go hunting through to the 3 or 4 different layers in some cases to bring that up.
Well, and that's a good question right there. The voice assistant, how's the native voice assistant compared to Tesla?
Well, I think this tends to have a little bit more, I want to say, intuitive feel. For example, I can say, hey, BMW, I'm feeling a little cold.
I'm raising the temperature, so it will be more comfortable right away. Let me know if it gets too warm for you.
So
Yeah.
I told, I don't know if that all got picked up, I told it I was feeling a little cold, so it turned my temperature up on the driver's side by about 4 or 5 degrees.
BMW says the iX xDrive 50 has 516 horsepower and 564 pound-feet of torque. It can get to 60 miles per hour in 4.4 seconds. Depending on how it's optioned, the iX xDrive 50 has an estimated range of up to 324 miles and can add up to 90 miles of range in 10 minutes when DC fast charging. The 111.5 kilowatt-hour battery has a peak charging speed of 195 kilowatts.
We had a Tesla Model Y, and I think the design's starting to become a little dated. The car was also a little smaller. My wife wanted to have something bigger on these highways here in Florida. When we saw the BMW, it just looked like a 21st century vehicle. It's very futuristic looking. It's also BMW. We had one in the past. We love the drive dynamics of the BMW. This particular car had the range we wanted too. We've been consistently getting much more range than what the EPA estimated. We have the Sport package on this one. This adds a body color spoiler on the bottom. We have the blacked out parts here. And you can see there's just the vehicle is peppered with sensors. We got them on the side. We got them here. We've got them here. The camera's there. More sensors in the windshield. It's just peppered to help with the self-driving stuff. The hood is not supposed to be opened by the user, so when you put your washer fluid in, there's our little pop-up to put it in that tiny little hole there. This is a self-healing grill. If you get some nicks or things on it, sand types of things, you're able to just let the sun on it and it'll heal over time, or you can bring out a hairdryer and apply some heat to it and it'll help it heal up. We have the LED headlights. I guess there's an option for laser headlights. I think that is legal in the United States. I've not seen them, but these are very bright at night, and the driving lights as well. The Sport package also adds the blue calipers and 21-inch wheels. And then I like to call these my little fidget spinners, so that the BMW logo is always up while you're driving. Of course, you can't see that from inside the car. More cameras and sensors along the side. We got cameras on the mirrors, and it's bigger than my Model Y was. It's supposed to be about the size of a BMW X5, and it feels really big inside. The drive is terrific. BMW has terrific driving dynamics. I think the Sport package adds the black on the bottom. I'm not sure if that was standard or not, but then it also adds these little flares in the back, and it blacks out the taillights to add a little more sporty appearance to it. And you see again, there's sensors everywhere, all the way around, 6 sensors. I think it has many more sensors than my Tesla seemed to have. I think it had 4 in the rear, 4 in the front, so it has a lot more. I think the spoiler is standard as well. This is interesting. This is actually where the washer is for this rear camera. When you wash the cameras, this pops out and just sprays liquid over the back of that over that camera there. And I think that's about it for the outside. This is the charge port. So we do have, for your AC, I think that's a J1772, I believe, and then there's DC fast charging there. I'll tell you one thing I did like about the Tesla was it was electric, so you could just pop it from inside and open and shut it that way. I've pulled up a number of times and I've expected to just be able, I'm still looking on the dashboard to pop this open, and I figured it's like a gas tank now, or I can just pop it open. So another thing that BMW did with this, I guess to save weight, was they put carbon fiber over the aluminum frame. You can see the carbon fiber on the interior here. The sunroof is an electrochromatic sunroof. It's supposed to block 95% of the sun rays when it's shaded, and then when it's open, it's supposed to let in a lot of the sun. And that's open.
Now, of course, it's a cloudy day, so we can't really give it the full effect that you would see, but I, as a rear seat passenger, can certainly see the difference.
Yeah, there's the difference with no clouds, and then now you can see the clouds. The screen is very wide. It's really broken up into two sections. There's a driver information here in the center, and this is not touchscreen capable. There are various things you can set up on this in terms of the information you want to see. I'm usually very concerned about the energy I'm using, so I have my energy use. Right now we're sitting at idle, and it's displaying how much energy I'm using at idle. It'll have the battery state of charge down here, your estimated range. So you can change the layout to however you want it to look. You can change the content. That's tell you what your estimated range is. And you can see the animation there going to the right that says that, hey, right now you're at 259 miles, but the way you've been driving recently tells me you might be able to get to 270. So your range is actually increasing over the estimated. There's other displays you can put on there as well. One's like a traffic aware, so this will help you with your assisted view. This is something that have your navigation display here instead of in the heads-up display if you wanted to look at it on your dashboard. There's another thing, even a G meter. It is a BMW after all, so you can see in our recent riding we were taking 0.3 Gs into some of our turns there. So there's all these different displays. I can even put my music on there if I wanted to.
And of course, you had none of that in the Model Y because
Right.
there was no gauge cluster. So now let's
Right.
go ahead and have you talk a little bit about the infotainment screen.
Okay, so then you have the touch screen here, which is everything else you want to do. It can be like an iPad where you have the different cards. They call them cards. You can add cards. You can take cards off. Mostly what I use this for is to go ahead and bring the navigation up to the full screen is mostly what I'm going to be doing on this. And as I said before, a lot of things are touchscreen capable up here. I can get in here, get into the menus. I can go to all my apps. They have multiple things that you can do from here in terms of setting up my seat comfort. I can set my massage on my driver's seat for how long I want that to go, what type of massage I want. I can set up the passenger seat as well. I can set the climate control. I can do everything from here. There's just a lot of things you can get into in terms of apps, but most of these are available through the voice assistant by asking it to either turn on your seat heat or adjust the temperature, adjust the interior lighting. There's just a lot of toys to play with in terms of customizing your vehicle, what you want it to look like. I can set my driving settings. For example, this is where I've set my safety. I want the early collision warnings. For example, how I want it to respond. Do I want it to, give me the vibration in the steering wheel, or do I want it to do other things? So, like, here's the feedback, for example. I have it set on medium intensity. You can set your driving dynamics. It's so like a Tesla. There's all those driving dynamics and things. You can all set it from that screen. But unlike a Tesla, I do have this center console here, and you can probably see that almost all of the buttons that I would want to activate up here, I can activate down here between my media, my telephone, my navigation. I can activate all of those from there, and then with the dial, I can do other things that I would want to do that I could do as well with my touchscreen up here. You do get kind of a muscle memory of where everything is, almost like a typewriter, and start to understand what you need to hit to do what you want to do.
Now, one thing I want to point out to viewers too is the beauty of this is you can see everything is designed to sort of look like crystal. Not designed to sort of, it does look like crystal, and it's not just the xDrive unit, but of course the seat controls, the lock and unlock. It's a nice touch.
I wanted to demonstrate the automatic parking feature. I've pre-recorded a parking path to take me into my garage.
Like many EVs these days, the iX xDrive 50 includes self-parking. But the BMW takes it a step further by allowing the driver to record complex parking maneuvers such as parking in your garage, as Cory demonstrated in this video. BMW's regenerative braking system is also more sophisticated than what is found in many EVs.
They have what they call adaptive regenerative braking. They have two drive modes. One is more like the one-pedal drive mode that you'd see in a Tesla, and you can set your regenerative braking, but it'll just slow you down every time you take your foot off the gas pedal. There's another drive mode that they use, an adaptive regenerative system, and it's just like a regular gas car. When you take your foot off the accelerator, you're going to coast. I think someone said it's because there's the permanently excited magnet motors that BMW in-house developed. They're supposed to be pretty efficient, and I've been using D mode probably 90% of my driving now. And like I said, I'm beating the EPA estimates by 20%. Routinely. The car's rated at 305. I'm routinely getting in the order of 350 to 360 in terms of total range.
And that makes sense to me because, of course, with the traditional one-pedal driving, it's kind of an all or nothing. As soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, it starts slowing down, which in a highway situation, that may not necessarily be exactly what you want.
Right.
And, of course, some brands, they do it a little differently in that they'll go ahead and maybe have paddles where you increase or decrease the amount of regen. So this is a very sophisticated system, though.
Right, and I think the blended brakes do well. The thing that's changed for me now is I actually have to hit the brake pedal. That's the problem with using D, if you want to call it a problem.
But you can go to traditional one pedal.
And I
if
can
you
go
want
back to the one pedal, right. Yeah, and stop and go traffic on the city streets or around a shopping mall or something like that, I'll put it in the what they call B drive mode, which is the one pedal driving mode. And that you know, will just then I'm used to stopping, and you're not going that fast. It doesn't slam your head against the windshield when you take your foot off the accelerator.
Right. And what about, talk to me a little bit about the ride quality. I know we talked a little bit about the handling, but compare the Model Y suspension directly to
the Model Y was a little rough. All right, it had 19-inch wheels. This has 21s. But I'll tell you, even just going in and out of my driveway, it felt like you were going over a curb. Whereas in this car, it tends to absorb the bumps a lot better, I believe, overall. I know with the adaptive suspension, when we're on the highway and going at speed, it will lower the vehicle. It has mechanical louvers in the front that will open if it needs more air and different things like that. I think just overall, this has a softer ride. It is probably 2,000 pounds heavier than, or 1,500, something like that, pounds heavier than the Model Y. That might cushion it out a little bit, but it's not only the handling, because it's a BMW, it handles better overall, but the feeling of the ride, I believe, is much more comfortable, because and I think that is one of the knocks on Tesla. You feel the bumps on that car, on the Model Y. It was a pretty stiff suspension on that car.
As far as the window sticker goes, Cory's iX xDrive 50 with 21-inch wheels carried a MSRP of $97,285.
The interior of this BMW is among the nicest I've seen anywhere. Hey, and if you've enjoyed this episode of EV Rider, please give it a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can bring you more adventures in EV motoring.